Hello Electroheads, Tish here and welcome back to the channel. Stellantis have released a variation of electric SUVs and one of the first was the Peugeot E2008. But this little SUV is now 3 years old and on that anniversary it's now had an update which includes a bigger battery, a slightly more fresh and stylish look and also a small amount of change to the specification. So in today's video I'm going to run you through all the changes of the 2023 Peugeot E2008. So if that sounds good, please keep watching, and if you like new car reviews and car content, then this is the place to be. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Okay, so let's start from the stuff on the outside. What's new? You'll now notice that the Peugeot E2008 resembles the rest of the car's lineups, and that means it's got a fresh new look. It's wearing that great big new Peugeot badge, but this badge isn't just large for brand appeal, it's also pretty functional. It houses all of your ADAS technologies, which I'll talk about a little bit more detail later on. Other subtle design changes are also to the lights. So they used to be actually built into the headlights, but now you've got those 3 slashes in the LED lights underneath instead. The rear lights have also been sharpened up. The lion slashes have been rotated horizontally and now appear to float within the lights. There's also been a subtle change to the E badge. Previously it was simply just an E, but now you'll notice that it also has those 3 classic lines that Peugeot always use. Boot space remains the same at a humble 434 litres. Other rivals do offer more, but surprisingly the Peugeot has squeezed more into the 2008 compared to the Mocha, which gets 310 litres despite sharing a platform. Rear space again is unchanged and remains respectable for 2 people, but a squeeze for 3. You'll also need to move up the trim levels to get the charging ports. The seats in this GT line trim have been upgraded further. They do feel really high quality. They are sort of sporty. You've got Alcantara, you've got some vegan leather on the exterior. They do feel very, very high quality, but they are expensive. They're going to set you back a further £1,000. And though they also do come with electric, memory and massage functions, it's an expensive option to have in an already quite expensive car. Driver assistance features include adaptive cruise control with stop and go, automatic emergency braking, extended traffic sign recognition, lane keeping assistant and driver attention alert and blind spot monitoring. Although it is likely that a more autonomous drive will feature on the new up-and-coming all-new E3008. The interior remains pretty unchanged to the previous generation of car, but I don't personally see that as a bad thing. I've always really loved the interiors of Peugeots, and actually they were quite ahead of their time. Are they going to start to feel a little bit dated? Well, I'm not too sure, because even now, 3 years on, this looks really fresh and modern. I also love the setup of the interior of this car as well as the 208 over something like the 408 or the 308, and that's because you still get these lovely piano keys for controlling some of your climate control systems. A lot still goes into the touchscreen, and this touchscreen has also been updated to have the same system that you get on the newer Peugeots. It's actually pretty good. You've got shortcut buttons, so it makes it slightly more user-friendly. I do have one gripe, however, when it comes to these climate control dials. Would it really be that hard, Peugeot, if you've gone through so much effort to have all of these keys, to have just a simple one to click up and down to change your temperature? Because you do have to completely go into the climate control setting just to put your temperature up or down. These keys kind of don't really logically make sense to me as the things you always want to use as a shortcut. In a similar sense, for the storage that you get inside the boot, you get the same amount of storage up front here as well. That's remained unchanged. It's pretty good. You get a little bit of storage inside the armrest, a couple of cup holders, though they are slightly small, and you get some storage up front. My favourite piece of storage is still available, which is where you pop out this section here. It feels very nice and clean and tidy, and then you can actually sit your mobile phone on there. If you go for the higher spec models, you also get some wireless charging, so that pops in there and you can tuck your phone away, which is pretty nice. Unfortunately, like the new design cars, like the 308, this still gets your silly little glove box, which is based off of the international cars, and that means you do have the fuses in there, meaning you don't get a full-size glove box, which is a shame. But actually, for a first-time family car, it should be more than enough. The outgoing battery setup was a 50 kilowatt-hour battery, 45 of which was actually usable. The range hovered around 200 miles, depending on if you had the model which received a phase 2 update sort of halfway through its cycle. This included things like improving the efficiency and how it works with the heat pump, and it boosted the range by sort of around 15 miles, but more importantly, it just overall made it more efficient. However, this model has had more than just some efficiency upgrades. It's in the introduction of a new battery, now grown to a whopping 54 kilowatt-hour battery, with 47.7 of that being usable, and it stretched the range to 250 miles. A welcome improvement, but still somewhat behind the likes of the Kia Niro and the MG ZS. It seems that despite their greatest marketing efforts, in our opinion, Peugeot and its stablemates Vauxhall and Citroën have begun dragging their heels. That being said, if you are one of those people which are quite content with their own Peugeot E2008, of which there are many, it's a nice little boost of range, and it might just keep you from drifting towards the competition. It might, but I'll let you tell me that. Are you a current Peugeot E2008 owner, and is 250 enough to keep you away from the competition? Perhaps you're now thinking of switching to another brand. Which one is it going to be? And let us know in the comments down below. We want all your good and bad opinions. But Peugeot haven't actually just treated you to around 40 more miles either. The 2008 is also a little bit nippier, which helps pair it with its existing driving dynamic setup. With 20 more brake horsepower, this brings the total power output to 156 brake horsepower. That's a punchy amount of power for a small little SUV. This extra power suits the Peugeot's personality. Compared to other models from Citroën, its steering is much sharper and it's actually pretty well weighted. That makes you feel quite connected with the Peugeot E2008. Its comfort setup is perfect as well. This car actually comes on some upgraded larger wheels, but the suspension is just about right. It's stiff enough so you still have some connection with the road, but it's subtle enough to mean that when you hit bumps it doesn't send shudders through your spine. It's actually pretty comfortable. I think it's the perfect setup within the Stellantis lineup. This is always a bit of a controversial subject, but I actually love the little steering wheel that you get in the Peugeots. It makes it feel like a little go-kart, and now with the added power, it's actually really good fun to drive. It does have quite a lot of body roll, but what can you expect from an SUV? They're never that great in their handling, but actually it stays pretty well composed even when you're going around the twisty back roads, and it's actually quite a delight to drive. There is just one level of regenerative braking in the Peugeot E2008, and this can be found on the gear selector just below the D for drive. There's the B for brake. Now you do have to remember to turn this on every single time, because every time you get out of the car and power down, it will turn the regenerative braking mode back off. There's also only one level of regenerative braking as well, and it's not enough to be an I-pedal. It doesn't bring you to a complete stop. It's a shame for this latest generation of Peugeot E2008, they didn't decide to add some paddles behind the steering wheel, which controlled your levels of regen. Despite the battery size increasing slightly, charging capabilities remain the same as before. A standard 7.4 kilowatt charger will top up the car in 7.5 hours from home, with an 11 kilowatt charger available as an option. Rapid charging is still set to a maximum speed of 100 kilowatts, which is somewhat behind other brands. In a dream Electroheads world, we'd be reviewing an affordable Peugeot 108, priced to be accessible to everyone. But despite the brand's partner company Citroën releasing the Ami and teasing the affordable electric version of the C3, Peugeot has taken a somewhat more prestigious approach in recent years. Previously, the E2008 started at just over $32,000 when it was first released, but this new model with its battery revisions will begin at just over $36,000. That does, however, still undercut the Kia Niro EV and its stablemate, the Vauxhall Mokka Electric, despite the Mokka still being available with the previous generation battery. When the Peugeot E2008 was first released over 3 years ago, it was an extremely compelling package. However, it now finds itself in an extremely competitive market. There is some seriously strong contenders out there. And have Peugeot done enough to keep this relevant within the market? I'm not too sure, but what I do know is from speaking to existing Peugeot E2008 owners, they love the full package, they love the styling, the quality, and they really do love the driving engagement that they get with their Peugeot. So I think a little uplift in range will be enough to keep them happy, but let me know. Do you think it's enough, or is there another competitor that you've got your eye on? Let me know in the comments down below. If you have enjoyed the video, please do go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. And want to see more car reviews like this, then go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Until next time, guys. See you later.